We are going to walk through how to set up a LinkedIn, or well, not exactly how you're going to set something up, but I thought I'd share a few ideas I've had about how to set up a fairly popular, like a CV profile on LinkedIn that's going to grab you some attention, and talk to you a little bit about how to set up a CV in a way that is going to grab people's attention. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't tell you, like, I don't do this professionally. I made my own CV, and I have some tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you. And all I can really say is that I have had like fairly substantial result. I have fairly substantial results from this profile, and I have been told by several recruiters and people who are hiring that they find my profile fairly impressive. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's something extraordinary in any way, but hopefully it's going to be of some use to you if you're trying to figure these things out. Okay, so the first thing I started off by doing is that you want to have some type of the first thing that your user is going, like your visitor to the profile, is going to look for is a visual representation of something that catches their eye immediately. This is fairly common in front end development, and like anything in marketing, you need something to grab people's attention. Now, I went with something fairly subtle, which is this blue little background image that has some cogs and so forth on it. And I highly suggest that you bring something like that into it. Now, my suggestion is that you get some type of graphic, but not an image or anything like that necessarily, unless it's a picture of you, because the second thing that someone is going to look at, it's going to be almost a split second. They're going to see the blue, and then they're going to see my face or your face when you're making your own profile, which is not, this is the way this is structured, right? So if we do have a look at the public profile, which is the profile that you're going to see, you can see that there's quite a bit of difference. So I'm not going to cover this part necessarily. I'm going to look at what people are seeing if they actually have an account, because that's, in my opinion, usually how people are going to find you on LinkedIn. Most of the time they're going to find you, as you can see, search appearances. That's usually how people find you. Anywho, so first things first, get a nice graphic going. Ideally something fairly colorful or something like that, so it grabs the reader's attention. Second thing they're going to see is your image, and then you of course have your presentation information. Like, this is nothing special, this is the same for everybody. I'll talk a little bit about having connections and all that stuff in a little while. The second thing that's going to happen is that they're going to skim. Most likely they're going to skim this section here. So this personal description here, it's not necessarily the first thing that they're going to look at. They might actually start scrolling down and start looking at experiences, but I'll walk you through this nonetheless. The important bit here is that you can see that this top section here, this is all the text that there is, but that's this section here. So the first two paragraphs that you have in your personal message to anybody who's going to look at your profile, though, that's where you want to put your, like, you need to put your hook there. You need to make people want to learn more about you. So what I suggest, and that's usually the case. I mean, if the odds are that they will not read the whole description. Like, don't be afraid to put a description that is a little bit longer and be a little bit more descriptive, but bear in mind that these first sentences is most likely the only thing that they're going to read, and then they're going to start scrolling down. But I'll walk you through anyway how I structure this and my mindset behind it. So the first thing I do, this is some fairly boilerplate. My name is Fredrik Christensson and I'm a developer, blah, blah, blah. The second thing is to say that I love programming is a big understatement. I spend almost every week hour building something fun or watching tech talks. Now, this is a claim. I am claiming that I am in some way, that I'm passionate about what I do. And that's the first, trust me, in IT, every single person who is hiring developers, they want people to, like, everybody wants rock stars. Every single fucking company wants you to care about programming as more than just a job, because the benefits of having these type of those people is massive. And unfortunately sometimes it gets even a little bit unreasonable, but I'm not going to cover that now. That's another video. And you can see that I put a single, like the big word here in caps, just to try and grab a little bit more attention, because I can't style this. I would have styled it otherwise, because that's a very nice visual hook. If you have a flow of information and you can say make a single word bold here or there, that's going to grab the user's attention, or the reader's attention, which is what I'm trying to go for here. Writing good code and developing high quality applications is my profession and main pastime. And it's more of this, I'm selling the idea that, I'm passionate about what I do, I love what I do. And see, what this is a build up at best, because trust me, nobody's going to take your word for it. If you're the type of person who starts your CV off by saying that, yeah, I'm happy and I'm passionate, I work hard and all that stuff, they will, like, the people who are looking for new people to hire are not just going to take your word. You're going to have to prove that later on. So if this was somebody else's CV and I read all of this, then I would expect there to be some solid proof that all of this is true, like lower down on this page. But let's just keep on going. Currently, I do my front-end web development with tools like React, Sass, Webpack. If I'm doing back-end development, my preferred choice is Node.js. When I do app development, I switch between Android and Swift as needed. What's happening here is that I am giving you a very, very small snippet or an insight into these are the technologies that I specialize in. And that's something that it's a little bit subtle, but it's the same type of thing that you are most likely looking for when you're looking for a match on the job market. You're looking for specific technologies so that you know what people are hiring you to do. That's in essence what's happening here, just to give them a because further down we're going to see like skills and so forth, and usually you have more skills than what you're looking to work with. So this is just a little bit of an indication to the reader that, hey, if you're looking to hire me, these are the things that I'm most interested in. And then some personal stuff here, where what my motto is, trying to just convey that continuous learning and like the type of person that I'm about. And then of course, as many images as humanly possible. Images is always a nice thing, and ideally you want these images to mean something. This is me way back when I was at JDays and I met Ivar Jacobson, which if you don't know who that is, you can go to Wikipedia. He should be there. And then what's going to happen if they even did all of this? If you didn't hook them now, to start with, you're gonna have to hook them further down in experience and education, and then they're most likely gonna come back up here and read this. But if they did read all of this, you have made a fairly nice set, like you've set the person up for delivering on these promises, because as you can see, you communicated a little bit about the tech you're interested in, or rather I have some of the stuff I'm interested in, and I also made a lot of promises, and now I need to deliver those promises, because just saying that I love what I do is not good enough. So here comes experience, and this is where the meat is. This is where 99.999% of all recruiters are going to head first. This is what they're looking for. So this is, if you don't have a lot of experience or anything like that, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to touch on it just a little bit. But ideally, you want, as you can see here, you want images. You want something to show for, like you want a description. You want to fill out this as fast as humanly possible. If you're just graduating from university or something like that, this is going to be a tough sell for you, because it's going to look very, very weak. But I urge you, don't just slap any type of experience on there, because if you put a lot of irrelevant bullshit, like you had a summer job as a mailman at one time. That's not relevant information. Don't waste your reader's time. Get to the point. Like, keep it brief, keep it to the point, and try to fill it out as you progress through your career. Slapping a few images here is good. It fills out with some nice, like, it gets you some nice white space and more air to breathe. And then you give a short description, of course, of what you were doing at the companies that you were working. Now, this is, as I said, fairly straightforward. It's not something you can do all that much with, ideally, but I can tell you that my rule of thumb is that it's when you are looking for like employments, try your best to stay there for a little while. Like, there is, at least here in Sweden, there's what I call a pain threshold, and that's usually a year or 2 years. And what I'm talking about here is that there are questions that are going to arise from you having a very short period at a company, and there are questions that are going to arise if you're there very long. So ideally, I'm not saying that, I'm not encouraging, I mean, if you loved your job and you love the company, then stay for the love of God. But you should know that in the past, it used to be that, working at the same company for 20 years was a good thing. Today, that's not the case. Today, it's more like companies and people who are hiring feel more comfortable if you've had like long enough, like just enough of time, of a period of time at the company, and then had several employments, because that proves that you can like, you've been at several companies, you've been like that's better statistics. If you've been at one company for 20 years, it's very difficult for them to get a feel for, were you good for that, or like, were you good at what you were doing, like, are you the, or did you just kind of sit there and do, and the odds are that if you've had more than one employment or several, that you're a safer bet. And it's all about making, like, companies are about security. Like, they want to hire people that they know are going to be productive, because hiring new people is a very costly and dangerous process for companies as well, for the most part. So think about that. Ideally, try to stay at the company that you go with for a year at least. And I actually got a few questions about these two places I worked with. This is actually all one company. I started at Interaktionsbyrån, or like I worked there part-time when I was in the university, and then there was this company. Basically, the application we were building became its own company, and then I was there for a few months. But people have asked me about, okay, why did you stay there for such a short duration? And this is kind of where I'm coming from experience. I'm saying that if the time that you were at the company is too short, people get suspicious, because they basically assume that there was a problem, or that like you got fired or something like that. So just be wary of that. If you have something like this, like 3 years, or well, almost 2 years on and counting, that feels much more secure to them, because that's long enough for them to feel that, oh yeah, he or she, they went over that first hump, they got all the learning down, and then they were productive. And then we have education. Now, what I highly suggest here, this is really not that relevant when you get enough experience. Like, if you have 5-10 years or like plus, like, this is just it's nice to have type of thing later on, later on. In the beginning, and it's, of course, it's fairly critical. So this comes into, okay, can I be self-taught and be a programmer? Of course you can be self-taught and be a programmer, but you should know that, like, there are companies out there who are fairly elitist, and they will look at this. Like, when I was talking to Klarna, the first thing they asked me about is Harvard and MIT. That was the first thing they talked to me about. Like, that was off the bat the thing they wanted to hear about. And I knew this. Like, if you actually look at what's here, I'm not a graduate of Harvard. I'm not a graduate of MIT. I don't have a computer science degree. I have one from Sweden, but I don't have these two. I added them here because these are basically courses. I did some coursework online at these two very nice schools. And I mean, I had a great time, and this was just me trying to figure out if I could do computer science. I just wanted to try it out, and I did, and I passed the courses and so forth. So I put it on the CV. But I know that because these are very prestigious brands. these are very fancy schools. I know that the recruiters also know that. So think about it. If we assume that the recruiter is trying to hire like 100 people in a day, or like trust me, a recruiter, if they're telling you that you're special, you're not special. Trust me, you are not special. They will say anything to get you to talk to them. They're most likely talking to at least 10, 20 other people as well. But what they're going to do is that they're going to skim all of this, and then they're going to look at the logos. So this is a very nice logo for me to have. That's probably, I mean, if I just had this logo here, and if I hadn't worked at Ticketmaster, I would not be as popular as I am now that when I was looking at a new job, because this is I mean, if you have Google here, if that's like, if the first one is Google and then you have like Apple or something, I mean, I'm not saying that you should lie. I'm just saying if you're fortunate enough to have that type of thing on your CV, you're gonna like, they're gonna stop here and just call you most likely. Anywho, the same goes for here. They're skimming. Oh, that's the Harvard logo. Oh, it's the MIT logo. Like they didn't even read this. Like Klarna didn't even read what I was actually saying here. They said, "Oh yeah, okay, so you did only a few courses, because looking at your CV, you could think that you're saying that you graduated." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. I'm sorry that's the way it came. Like that's the way, you know." It happened. But if you actually read, like I'm not saying that I did. I'm simply stating that I did coursework here, and I put it on the CV because it's relevant. And then they were like, and then the conversation became more, oh, okay, so you did extracurricular activities, or like you studied, you went beyond your own, like going to a university here in Gothenburg. And I said, yeah, like because I love what I do. And then the conversation became more like, oh, that's pretty cool that you went that far, because you're passionate about what you do. Did you see what, like, this is communicating what I'm delivering on what I was promising earlier. I was in my text up here promising that I love what I do and I really care about it, and by saying that apart from going to a university here in Gothenburg, I actually did some extra coursework online at a few other schools. That, do you see what I'm saying? I'm delivering the promise. I'm proving now that what I'm saying is not just words. And then I have some volunteering things that have to do with leadership and mentoring and stuff of that nature, which is, it's nice to have if you can, like, it's not critical in any way, but try to, if you have the opportunity to help some people out and like stuff like that, you should absolutely put it on your CV if it's relevant, because trust me, being a programmer is a lot. It's not just about tech stuff, it's also about talking to people. So if you're doing volunteer work, or if you're active in some type of like group or something like that, that can absolutely be relevant. And here comes skills. So skills, now this is where it's all happening, people. This is what it's all about when it comes to LinkedIn. So what you want to do here is that if you don't know these things, then you don't, for the love of God, don't put it on your resume. You're just going to waste your own time and other people's time. But if you do study a lot of different topics and you're really passionate about what you do, you need to choose your trigger words. These are basically hashtags. So what's going to happen for the recruiters are going to get hits on your profile based on these rules, or these tags. This is how you communicate to the database search engine what your profile and what and like all that stuff. This is what they're gonna look for. So craft these very carefully. Don't just put some arbitrary bullshit in here. Make sure that you're trying that you know what study the relevant technologies and all of that good stuff, and make sure that you have really nice skills, because these are what's going to make you come up rank. Like, it's not the only thing that makes your ranking on this network, but it's a fairly important thing. So craft these very well. And then we have accomplishments, where if you do coursework like this, for example, extra courses, and like for us who do JavaScript, there's not really much in terms of like a course, like if you go and like, what's a course? Like, go and watch the full course on asynchronous programming, the end of the loop, or build algorithms using TypeScript. These are Egghead.io course videos, and some of them are several hours, some of them are a few minutes, and then you can. There are tons of learning platforms that you can either pay or you can take for free, and add some stuff in here, because like, don't try, you're not trying to lie to people, not at all. You're trying to communicate that you are, as I said, deliver on the fact that you're passionate. If you have a lot of extra coursework, this is not the thing that's going to give you the job. It's the thing that's going to prove that you actually mean what you're saying. You're proving that you're passionate about your job. Same thing goes for certifications. I mean, most of these are free certifications that you can take and just spend a few days, or I think the only one here that's actually a real like a certification type of most of, as you see, most of it is Udacity. I love Udacity, lots of good stuff there. Yeah, and I did actually do a MongoDB certification, an introduction certification. So once again, most people who are looking at your profile, they don't actually look at the specifics. They don't actually look all that deep into it. They want to just be convinced that you know your stuff. The stuff that they are caring about, that's here. These skills here. And when they have gotten a good feel for what's here and what's up here, these things here, that's what they're going to hook into. They're going to look at these tags here, and they're going to contact you. And trust me, this is where the code test later on comes in. Like, you don't have to be self-conscious about trying to sell a false image of yourself. I'm saying, don't put things you don't know on your CV, but I'm saying don't be afraid to put things that you think are like, as you said, I mean, if you watched a bunch of videos on some topic, you can ask yourself, is that real education? Well, it is education. It is relevant, and if it's not the thing that's going to give you the job, but it's the thing. If you get this number higher and higher, people are going to just look at the number and look at, oh yeah, this guy Frederick, he seems to be very active. He's watching all these videos. He's trying his best to keep himself relevant. Trust me, a lot of questions you're going to get in job interviews, especially in front end, is how do you stay relevant? This is how you stay relevant. Right here, certification courses, put it on your CV, because it's going to draw attention. These numbers will get you to that all-important thing, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And then if you can, just make your own little videos or presentations or anything like that and publish it. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. Just do anything. Just get that number, because the number is more. Trust me, the number is the important bit. At least when they're trying to figure out if they want to call you. And then have some side projects that you can showcase and stuff of that nature. Make a few projects that you take fairly seriously, and and build it from there. And this language thing is just like, I put it here as funny, like it's basically just there to, like, I do actually study Japanese and Spanish, and I speak English and Swedish, so this is more like getting to know you type of information for me anyway. And then you have interest and all that. So that's basically my entire CV. And the crescendo here, or the thought I want to leave you with, is that the CV is only there, like, it's there to show, like, this profile. The goal is not for you to give people your entire life story, or to tell them everything about you. The goal is to make them want to contact you, to send that message. That's the goal. You want them to contact you, because that's the first step. Most people get dismissed at the CV level because their CV is poorly maintained. It's poorly structured. It's poorly designed. You don't put relevant stuff. And if you do that, you're already in the no pile. You want to get into the maybe pile. Like this CV, I don't get into the yes pile, most likely. I get into the maybe pile, but I only have to get to the maybe pile because then I'm going to get a message, and then I can take it from there. So be very mindful of these things. And my biggest tip to you guys, especially for those who you're just coming out of school or something like that, start by trying to fill this up accomplishments, because this is fairly easy for you to do. You just have to put a little bit of mind in it, put some really interesting stuff here, because you're weak. Your weak part is the experience part. You don't have this. And education, that's also going to be fairly limited, because most of us don't actually do all that much schoolwork ahead of time. So focus on skills and accomplishments, because that's where they're going to look. They're going to see that your experience is fairly low, and if you're not dismissed by that and they're looking for a more junior profile, then they're going to want to be sold the idea that what I was saying up here. If you are telling them that you're passionate, you have to prove it. And that's what you're doing down here. This is proof. All of this. All of this. This is like having a six-pack in the gym. Nobody's going to question it. If you have all this stuff, this is proof. This is better than words. And that's what you're going for here. So remember, my tip is fill out with things that prove that you're passionate about what you do, and because that's going to lead to recruiters contacting you. And that's the first step on that's the first step on the road to getting that job that you want.